Hello and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, the strategies, and the insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today I'm very lucky to be joined by Jenny of Jenny D. St. George's, her own company. She's a public speaker. How's it going, Jenny?
After a really bad connection, I'm thrilled to see your smiling face. So it is an honor
Yes.
to be here.
I'm glad we made it. I'm very happy to have you on here, and I would love to just start this off by learning a little bit more about your background and what you do for the audience.
It's an honor to be with you, Shiv, and thank you for inviting me. I'll try and put maybe 4 or 5 decades into maybe 90 seconds. I moved from London, where I used to work in a newspaper on Fleet Street, to New York City, where I worked for J. Walter Thompson for a year. At that time, they were the number one agency, marketing agency, advertising agency in the world. Then I moved to San Francisco and I was working for the largest or the oldest collection agency that worked for mortgages. And then by chance met the gentleman I married, and he was going through dental school in San Francisco. So for 2 years I was engaged to Edmund as he was a dental student. So honestly, I feel I went through dental school. I feel I graduated with him. And we started his practice, though once in a while I used to call it my practice, which did not keep him very happy, but I ran the practice. And so I married into dentistry, Shiv. I knew nothing about dentistry. We opened the practice down in the South Bay of San Francisco Bay Area. And his opening comment on day one, as we unlocked the door and turned on the lights, was, Jenny, why don't you handle the phones for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and I'll see if I can find somebody who actually knows what they're doing. That was my entrance into dentistry. To make a very long story very short, I ran the entire practice, made every mistake in the book, used business common sense and logic, and one day saw a program offered in San Francisco that, and the reason I'm telling you this, because I know we're listening to entrepreneurs, and this is an entrepreneur story. So in San Francisco, there is a huge seminar put on how to ask patients for money in healthcare. So we had physicians and dentists and veterinarians and chiropractors, you name it, about 300 people from healthcare. And at the end of the program, I asked where the owner or the person in charge was, and I went back and asked for my money back. And he looked at me incredulously. He said, I'm sorry, what did you say? I said, I'd like my money back. And he said, why? I said, your speaker is bad and her information is incorrect. So after he picked himself up off the floor, he said, have you ever spoken before in public? I said, absolutely not. He said, do you think you could do any better than she did? And forgive the language, but this is exactly what I said to him. I said, I sure as hell couldn't do any worse than she did. So he asked me for my card and graciously shook my hand and said he'd call me. And I waited about 3 or 4 weeks. He never called me. So I'll
Mm.
speak forward 3 months. I booked a room in the Hyatt Regency at San Francisco Airport, took $8,000 out of my bank account, sent 10,000 mailers around the San Francisco Bay Area. 199 people walked through the door paying $125 each.
Wow.
I'd never been on the stage. And at the end of the day, they walked up and said, this was great. Why have we never heard of you? And of course, I dared say that I'd never spoken before. So that's how the whole thing started. So for the entrepreneurs listening, if you have a passion and you believe in what you're doing, you just go for it.
Wow. What an amazing story.
So from that, I began to realize, and I'll also make this very brief, but it's how I got into the speaking. I began to realize that, so then I'm giving seminars all over the country because I discovered that I couldn't understand, Shiv, how the dentists in our local area had the problems that they had. That's what it came down to. So we'd be skiing one weekend, or we'd be at a cocktail party or having dinner with somebody's house. And don't let's kid ourselves, dentists are really quite boring people. I've been married to two of them, and all they do is talk about dentistry, most of them. So you go out for a social dinner, and all they're talking about is Delta and how come that Connecticut didn't pay this, and what about staff. And so I found myself solving problems. Every time they said there was a problem, I said, I'm confused. That's not a problem. If you did this, it wouldn't. And they kept coming back and saying it works. So then I thought, what is out there that is so different? So that's really what motivated me to send those flyers out. And then it grew, and I had 8 consultants who would go on site and put my program in.
Wow.
And then I became part of a Pacific Institute in Management and Design. Today it's known PI. I was one of the original four people who started that with Jim Pride and Phil Whitener. And then I was bought by Bob Sullivan at Sullivan Dental because he loved what my audiences did. Because when his clients, his customers at Patterson came back and actually implemented what I had suggested, their production went up, their income went up, their profit went up. And what do you do when you have too many patients and not enough space? You equip another treatment room and you buy more supplies. So he bought me. And so I was lecturing for Sullivan all over the country, which was fabulous. And then one day I woke up and Sullivan was purchased by Shine. So then I was owned by Shine for a couple of years, and then I'm back on my own. So you've got about 5 decades or
What a story. Wow, that's amazing. It shows resilience and it shows expertise and learning from your mistakes and truly becoming an expert. You have this passion for dentistry, having been married to two and just being in the industry for so long. What unique challenges do you see dentists facing today?
if I just remove the word today out of your question, Shiv, and just said, what is the unique challenge that all dentists have faced over the decades? And then we'll add today. Dentists go to dental school to be dentists,
Hmm.
and nobody teaches them, almost none of the schools teach management. And I could go into therapy telling you how I've had almost fights with deans of dental schools who say the dental students don't want management, and it's not true. Because if you ask the students, they are desperate for management.
Yeah.
So I kid in my programs that if a dentist could wave his magic wand, the patient would drop the teeth off at the front desk in the morning and come by in the afternoon and pick the teeth up, because the stress to the average dentist is not the dentistry, it's the person to whom the teeth are attached, and it's the staff and the running of the business. So everything outside clinical dentistry for which they have received training is actually going to give them challenge. And most of the dentists understand this, but very few are able to really successfully merge that two sides, that analytical left brain, clinical, which can also be a danger because when you start managing staff with that, I do a lot of speaking on perfectionism and procrastination because it is a problem with dentists, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so I sympathize. So the talent shift that of being a perfectionist in clinically, which is so valued, can be an absolute flaw when they go to
Yeah.
managing the practice. And,
Yeah.
and today, to make your question relevant, what is it today? And I know it sounds cute, but I believe it. I think that the profession that I know, it is really no longer a profession, it's become an industry. And this sort of saddens me.
Yeah.
And the dentist coming out, there seems to me that there's really two kinds of dentists out there. There are people that I will call, Shiv, the more traditional dentists. They came up, we still have them. Their sons and their daughters and their aunts are in their practice. I still see this all the time. The sons joining the practice for the father. So that's that traditional one. And then we've got the other side with the DSOs and coming out of school and let's move into a clinic. And if I were to generalize and try and do it very gently, I think that what they're finding is what they signed up for is maybe not what they are experiencing when they sign up. And so we've got, I think, a lot of young dentists now who have signed up for what they thought was A, but they're getting XYZ, and now
Yeah.
they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's so true. And I want to go back to what you said there too about I think the problem has always been with dentists or as a dentist that you don't learn management. So specifically, what strategies do you advocate for striking the right balance between delivering quality patient care and running an efficient practice?
I do remember many years ago Pankey, who of course most probably clinically is the Rolls Royce in clinical dentistry. And I said it from the stage, so I'm not speaking behind their back. I said, until Pankey begins to teach management, we are going to have a problem, because if a dentist goes to the Pankey and takes level 1, level 2, level 3, and is the finest clinician in the world, but if they come back and they've got Attila the Hun answering the phone and none of the staff are talking to each other, what good is this wonderful clinical dentistry? Because the practice is not going to make it. And so it's that balance. And one of the things I talk about, I don't talk about leadership. The most important thing I think that dentists need to learn in their practice is leadership.
Mm.
And there are people who are far more qualified than I to talk to small business owners about leadership. So this, Shiv, is how I discuss leadership with my audience. I said, now let's talk about leadership. You have three options, doctor. Provide it, delegate it, or if you choose option 3 and ignore it, you will live through the consequences. And I think about maybe 15% genuinely do an amazing job of delivering it.
Mm.
Go back to perfectionism and procrastination. Perfectionists, I speak with great authority on this, do not do well delegating. We did it once and it didn't work out. So we said, why give it to somebody else? They're going to screw it up. I'll do it right my way. So my desk is full of this, and all my staff's desk was perfectly empty because they knew, give it to Jenny because she's going to redo it anyway. So the problem that most dentists have is building that team that will support them. And I was just in Dubai in February. It's the fifth time I've spoken in Dubai in the last 18 months. And this is a country, obviously, where there is a difference between male and female. And so I did a 4-hour masterclass, and I thought, first of all, I'm really impressed that the conference, which is the largest in the world, would allow me to talk on what I thought was a very difficult subject, which was working with staff, knowing what the culture was, but they signed off on it. So my title was, Doctor, are you hiring staff or building a team? And that says it all. The successful dentists make an effort to find the team, and the ones that really don't appreciate the benefit that the team bring, they're hiring staff. It's just black and
Yeah.
white.
Wow. Wow. That's such an insightful question. It's one of those that just stops you in your tracks and you're like, wow, I really need to think about that.
I could have said 2 hours and
Yeah.
still come up with, and then if I may add another little, because I tend to work in these bite-sized pieces, because when you're on stage, you've got to get, as in my opinion, you've got to get as much information in as short phrases as possible so it registers. So
Mhm.
when I'm talking about staff and the team, and I'm looking for that dentist who wants to offer leadership and wants to attract the team, hiring and working with staff, it's 3 sections, 3 parts. Hire for longevity, manage for harmony, and I'm still working on the third one, what it basically means, and I'm looking for a cute phrase. When the problems happen, they need to be addressed promptly. So I'm still working on the third one to make it. So it's hire for longevity. 75% of applicants in this country are had on, let me rephrase that. 75% of employers who go to hire an applicant to become an employee, they do it from the last person interviewed. It's like they
Wow.
gave up. You
Wow.
know, if they've seen
Yes.
people, they thought, if this one's got 2 arms and 2 legs and speaks, they're
Yeah.
hired.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, that's thank you so much for bringing to light the issues that dentists face. And I can tell and I hear so much passion and experience in what you do. And I'm sure it's a gift for anybody to hear you speak live and everything. Where can people learn more about you and where can people learn more about what you do?
And thank you for asking. For decades, I had all my programs on originally, and this is going to age me, when people actually bought audio. Though
Yeah.
I have to say, podcasts are now back in favor, so life goes in full circle.
Yeah.
Then I had everything on my website on on CDs.
Mhm.
But my CDs were unedited. If I was on the stage speaking dental scheduling for 6 hours, I literally was selling 6 CDs with no editing. But today's audience is not going to listen to six hours. They want to know, where can I learn about how to schedule an emergency patient? Oh, look, that's number 4. It's 3.5 minutes in or something. So I'm having to reformat. The material hasn't changed.
Yeah.
When people say, how do you keep current? I say common sense and logic has no past due date. So to me, nothing changes. What has changed is like the DSOs, the expectations of the kids when they're coming out of dental school. So circumstances around it has changed. So I would say 2 things. My website is jdsg.com. My initials, Jennifer D. St. George, jdsg.com. But like many speakers' websites, it's too complex, we're too detailed. I want to give too much information. So if you'd like the shortened version, if you send me an email through the website at info, I-N-F-O, info at jdsg.com, I can actually email you or give you a link. I can give you both for just a mini speaker package. It just puts the 5 main courses. And so it's all in just one link, and forget the website at the moment. I'm, like every speaker says, I'm redoing my website.
Thank you so much for being on, and I'll link everything below in the show notes. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.